I'll miss you, buddy. I'll miss you and your lime green shirt and vest that you wore to literally every meeting that we had. Like butter, Ronnie. Like butter.
You just watched a small clip taken from a video called Losing the Battle. The video was posted on the 25th of July this year by the YouTuber Matthew Robert Patrick, also known by his nickname MatPat. I'm going to provide the link to the video in the description so that you can see the full video for yourself if you wish to. But in short, if you don't know who MatPat is, then he is the creator of The Game Theorists, a YouTube channel that focuses on creating video essays about different topics surrounding the video game industry. In this particular video, MatPat begins by talking about how he started his YouTube channel, how he needed a lot of help with video editing so that he could grow his channel much faster. He mentioned a guy named Ronnie Edwards. Ronnie was one of the few people who actually reached out to Matt and provided him with the help that he needed. Ronnie's biggest contribution to the channel was that he helped Matt to make the videos finally look exactly the way how he wanted them to look like. After explaining all that in the video, Matt continued by saying that sadly on the 4th of July this year, Ronnie had died by suicide. The video is very emotional, heartfelt, honest, and I think that it is a very respectable send-off for an amazing person, an artist who tried his best to fight his personal demons. When I watch videos like this, I would feel very motivated by them to try to live my life to the best of my abilities. It's my way of honoring those people who are not able to keep living and fighting on. For example, in July this year, I remember watching a video made by the YouTuber Paragon DS. He posted a video about his battle with mental health issues. The main reason why videos like this hit very close to home for me is because for my whole life I have been suffering from depression as well. Yet, while watching MatPat's video, I noticed that it did not have a similar effect on me. I was quite indifferent and almost apathetic while watching the video, and when MatPat talked about the suicide, I thought to myself,
and it fits, doesn't it? Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey. Another one bites the dust.
In my mind it did not sound that happy, of course, but you get the idea. That was what I was thinking at the moment, and I was very surprised by my reactions. After watching the video, I came to the sad realization that I have been consuming so much content about suicide attempts, the stigma surrounding these topics, how society looks down on people who suffer from mental health issues, and sadly, for me at least, it has become commonplace now. It has become almost normal to hear these things because nothing is changing. I believe that right now there is a bubble that is about to burst. People who have been isolating themselves, keeping their struggles to themselves, are tired of doing that. The problem is that people don't know how to speak up about their issues, so they speak out in the only way they know how. In Ronnie's case, it was suicide. I think that David Foster Wallace's words are appropriate here. He once said that the person who is depressed will kill herself the same way a trapped person will eventually jump from the window of a burning high-rise. Make no mistake about people who leap from burning windows. Their terror of falling from a great height is still just as great as it would be for you or me. Yet, when the flames get close enough, falling to death becomes the slightly less terrible of two terrors. It's not desiring the fall, it's terror of the flames. Yet nobody down on the sidewalk, looking up and yelling "don't" and "hang on" can understand the jump. Like, I don't like the fact that I have started to think so hopelessly about the state of mental health issues in our society, but when you look at the statistics, globally more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression, and the problem is only increasing. Plus, these are only the people we know about. There are people who get misdiagnosed, and there are people who are deliberately hiding their struggles, and because of that, the statistics are not complete and all-encompassing. And also, let's not forget that these statistics are only about depression. There are other mental health issues out there. But even when people are faced with facts like these, people like to say that, like, don't worry, there are effective treatments for depression. But then you have to ask, why is depression still growing as a problem if the treatments are so effective?
I want to say that the treatments we have for depression are appalling. They're not very effective. They're extremely costly. They come with innumerable side effects. They're a disaster. But I am so grateful that I live now and not 50 years ago, when there would have been almost nothing to be done. I hope that 50 years hence, people will hear about my treatments and be appalled that anyone endured such primitive science. And yet, when I went to look at alternative treatments, I also gained perspective on other treatments. I went through a tribal exorcism in Senegal that involved a great deal of ram's blood and that I'm not going to detail right now. But a few years afterwards, I was in Rwanda working on a different project, and I happened to describe my experience to someone. And he said, well, you know, that's West Africa and we're in East Africa, and our rituals are in some ways very different, but we do have some rituals that have something in common with what you're describing. And I said, oh, and he said, yes. He said, but we've had a lot of trouble with Western mental health workers, especially the ones who came right after the genocide. And I said, what kind of trouble did you have? And he said, well, he said they would do this bizarre thing. He said they didn't take people out in the sunshine where you begin to feel better. They didn't include drumming or music to get people's blood going. They didn't involve the whole community. They didn't externalize the depression as an invasive spirit. Instead, what they did was they took people, one at a time, into dingy little rooms and had them talk for an hour about bad things that had happened to them.
Even if the treatments would be effective, there are other factors that are at work here. A good example of this is the fact that in our modern institutions that are providing medical services, they are working based on the principle the patient has to come to the doctor and not the other way around. Now we know that people who suffer from, for example, depression are less likely to search for help. So how are these people supposed to get that effective treatment if the doctors don't come to them and the patients are not willing to go to the doctors themselves?
I think it's just one of those things that your mind gravitates towards in these sorts of situations, right? What you could have done, what you could have said. So I think it really merits mentioning. We're all really busy every hour of every day, round the clock. But take the opportunity to tell people what you think, how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, how proud you are of them.
Like, busy is an understatement. From my experience, if a person has the option to spend time with a person who has depression or to spend time with a person that does not have a mental health issue, like, who do you think that that person in that position would choose to spend his time with? Now granted, our day-to-day lives have become more busy. Also, everyone has the freedom to spend their time with whomever they wish to. And I always like to say that it is better for people to end their relationships early on rather than pretending that everything is okay and torturing each other. Yet being busy is not the main issue here. It is a contributing factor, of course. However, the real reason is that many of us don't know how to handle people with mental health issues. The irony in this is that many times we ourselves don't know how someone else could help us in our manic states. And personally, for me, people so rarely offer help that whenever someone has extended their hand towards me, I will usually be so surprised that I would not know how to properly react to that. And let's not even talk about all the other factors that are not helping with these issues. Most people are sleep deprived, and sleep deprivation has a devastating effect on mental health. There is less access to good healthcare in most parts of the world than there was 15 or 20 years ago. And despite the growing economy, people who are employed today do not feel confident that they will be employed tomorrow. And these are just some of the problems that absolutely don't help with dealing and noticing mental health issues. It is also interesting to notice that the solutions that actually decrease suicide rates are not what people think that should be the solutions. For example, Australia has shown a decrease in suicide rates ever since the establishment of better gun restrictions there. Imagine what a similar gun control policy could do, for example, in America. The fact that we are not speaking about these issues is also helping society to ignore people who suffer from mental health issues. And nowadays it seems that it is easier for people to just ignore problems rather than facing them. Because nowadays everyone is preaching this positive thinking mentality left and right. For example, I remember listening to a podcast episode made by Sean Wes while studying for my exams. Now, I don't remember the exact episode, but I remember him saying that he doesn't hang out with people that are negative or have a scarcity mindset. Now that sentence was not said in the context of mental health issues, but that does not change the fact that people gravitate to this type of mentality. So, if everyone believes this and is living their lives by this example, then who is supposed to be that person who is going to be willing to share the burden and help others suffering from mental health issues?
But I hope that through his tragic loss, there could be some good that comes out of this. That this video and the conversations that ensue in some way start to break down the stigmas around talking about mental health, social anxiety, and suicide.
At first, talking with someone when you have been silent about your struggles for years can be beneficial. Yet, the longer you have to keep carrying your burden without an actual solution, the bigger the chances are that the weight of that burden is going to push you down at some point. Eventually, talking about your problems with someone is not going to be good enough. Eventually, you will feel so trapped in your position that you will stop reaching out at all. Eventually, rather than wanting to receive a mere pep talk, you will wish that everyone would just shut up, leave you alone, and give you an actual solution to your problem.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
If I could choose between receiving emotional support for what I am going through right now, or to receive a red pill that is going to actually make my depression disappear, I will take the red pill in an instant. I think that everyone who has some kind of a mental health issue would take the pill without thinking about it. Now, by saying that, I don't want to minimize the importance of emotional support. It is important, but you have to ask, how long can a person carry the burden of a mental health disorder by just surviving on emotional support alone? Eventually, some kind of actual lifestyle changes have to take place, otherwise nothing is going to change.
First and most importantly, remember, you are never alone. Never. Even if it feels like you have no one to talk to. Even if you're talking to someone and it feels like they can't say the right thing, it's okay. It's about you not having to carry the burden yourself. It's about you not having to go through this alone. Keep talking. Keep conversations open, because it is the single most important thing in these sorts of situations. It's about you being able to give voice to what's wrong, to what you can only experience without being judged.
You are never alone. Like this phrase, in hindsight, it is such a hopeful thing to say. Sure, we are not alone. We share the same planet, we share this time period, we share a life, and we share a lot of other things. But have you ever been in a room full of people? Everyone is having fun, listening and dancing to music, but then there's you, standing there amidst the crowd, and you feel like you are completely alone. Like I've had that feeling many times. Being around people for the sake of being around people is not going to give us much. And even at the start of the video I showed you at the beginning, Matt even says that.
Ronnie, in all the years that I knew him, dealt with demons that only he could understand. Scars left by a childhood that he kept under lock and key. Over the years, he would give me glimpses as to what he had gone through, but I never had a complete picture.
Like, how are other people supposed to help you if they don't even understand what they are trying to fight against? People who struggle with mental health issues don't just need pieces of meat around them. Yeah, I know that sounds kinda harsh, but that doesn't change the fact that they actually need people around them who care about them. A place they can belong to at the very least. Knowing that the people around you don't get you, don't understand what you are going through, eventually can get to our heads. We will start to feel alone even though we have people around us. We will feel like we are living with strangers, like we don't belong.
So don't be ashamed to have your voice be heard, to share your story out there with people who are ready and eager to listen to it. The theorist community is a great place to start, Everyone here is so thoughtful and supportive and loving and caring. That's the beauty of social video in general, that it unites people. And at a time when social video and social media are constantly tearing each other apart, let's remember that it has positive to offer too. That it can unite people. That it can give people who feel like they have no one to listen to them, someone who is there to listen. But also reach out in real life. There are countless numbers of services out there available to help you. Suicide hotlines, websites, therapists, people who are trained to help. I'll include links in the description, but just do a Google search. They are there. But most importantly of all, remember that you are important, that you are valued, and that you are loved by more people than you could ever possibly think of.
I remember recently reading about Demi Lovato's drug overdose. Now, for those who don't know, Demi Lovato is a popular singer, songwriter, actress, and guess what, 25 years old, just like me and Ronnie. After hearing about her overdose, I went and I saw her official YouTube documentary called Demi Lovato, Simply Complicated. While watching Demi's documentary, you will see that she has an amazing support system in place. Family, friends, colleagues, specialists, in short, people that are staging interventions and are there for her in general. Not everyone has a support system like that around them. And that is bad because the statistics show that people need a social circle or a support system in place for them if they wish to ever actually get rid of their mental health disorders. Imagine that your best friend or your child or anyone else who is important to you finally agrees to open up to you about their struggles. They come to you, they sit down with you, and they start their story by saying, "I tried to kill myself, but I was not able to go through with it." And they stop. There's a pause, a silence. Your friend is waiting for your reaction. Like, and what do you do? Like, what do you say to them after hearing something like that? Now, let me repeat something that I already said. People who suffer from mental health issues don't always know how others can help them. And it doesn't help that other people are not educated in schools about the symptoms of mental health disorders and how to help people with these disorders, like cope with them. Like, not everyone has read the book Essentials of Abnormal Psychology by Mark Durand and David H. Barlow, or the book Lost Connections, Uncovering the Real Causes of Depression and the Unexpected Solutions by Jonah Hari in their spare time. In any case, sharing a burden does sound amazing, and I agree with what Matt is saying in the video that people should not stop reaching out.
It's about you being able to give voice to what's wrong, to what you can only experience without being judged.
We are being judged everywhere and all the time by our family members, our friends, our work colleagues, basically everyone who doesn't wish to acknowledge our shortcomings. I remember listening to the true crime podcast Sword and Scale episode 12. This episode was all about a mother whose daughter had committed suicide in their family home, yet rather than accepting the fact, the mother came up with an elaborate story about a person stalking her and poisoning her. For our family members, it is sometimes easier to just say that we are lazy, that it is only a phase we are going through, that we are spoiled or whatever. Basically, they're gonna say and believe anything else as long as they don't have to face the facts that our problems might be something more serious, something that actually needs medical attention.
That's the beauty of social video in general, that it unites people. And at a time when social video and social media are constantly tearing each other apart, let's remember that it has positive to offer too. That it can unite people. That it can give people who feel like they have no one to listen to them, someone who is there.
I remember listening to an episode from the Co-optional podcast. On that episode, one of the co-hosts, Dodger, said that, and I don't remember the exact phrasing, but she said that no matter what your interests are, there is a place for you on the internet where you can find like-minded people. Like, sure, there are places. For example, if you have depression, then you can go to the Reddit depression subreddit. The only problem is that if you actually read the posts over there, then you will notice that many of the users are enabling other users' victim mentality. Now, I understand why this is happening, but it does not change the fact that it is a very unhealthy place to be in. Allowing other people to enable your darker thoughts is not healthy. Like, this is one of the reasons why I stopped visiting that subreddit. But there have to be other places where you can find help, right? The Skype alternative Discord that has become quite a popular way for people to connect with each other. Last year I tried my luck by joining 3 servers on Discord that were all about people with mental health issues trying to create a community. The creators of those servers specifically said that they are not providing professional mental health guidance. The servers are only about like-minded people connecting with each other. And on these Discord servers you have these things called channels. Anyone can join these channels and connect online with others in order to chat with them by text or by voice. Some of the channels operate on the principle that if anyone needs someone to talk to, that they can join these channels, someone is gonna connect to that channel as well and then talk about their problems, just for support. Once I did try to see what was actually going on in these channels myself. I remember joining one conversation where a female that was talking about how hard it was for her to deal with her mental health problems and keep a relationship. The guy who was trying to support her was at first asking normal questions that would help him to understand the problem, but out of nowhere he started giving her advice that she should end a relationship just like that and be done with it. I tried to kinda chime in and add my own 5 cents to the conversation by saying that before breaking up, maybe, just maybe she can go to couples counseling with her partner or something like that. I said that to add a less dramatic option to the table for her, but the guy immediately just kicked me out of that channel and private messaged me by saying that I am interfering with his quote-unquote efforts, that me being there destroyed all the trust that he had built up with his client. I had a lot of questions in my head after that interaction. Is he some kind of a licensed psychotherapist? But the server states that they do not provide professional counseling. If I was interfering with his work, then why are these channels public? Why can just about anyone join the conversation? But at that moment I was kinda emotionally done with all of this, that I didn't even wanna try and ask these questions to the guy. Like, in the end I don't even got to understand who that guy was, but it did not sound like he was a professional psychologist. Plus the idea that people are joining these channels and trusting their emotional and psychological well-being to total strangers, it just shows how lonely and desperate people really are. As a side note, it's great if Discord has helped someone. It probably has, I don't want to take that away from anyone, but people who are emotionally disturbed can be easily manipulated. They can be so desperate that they might be willing to try out almost anything in order to just find some kind of a solution to their problems. And who knows what type of crazy advice a total stranger could give them in these servers. Speaking about getting advice, recently I myself have been trying to reach out to the local psychotherapist in my area so that I could get some help with dealing with my own issues. But not only are there not enough therapists to provide services for the inhabitants of my hometown, but also some of them don't even respond to any type of communication attempts. And the ones who did respond declined my offers. Up to this point, only one specialist was willing to actually make an appointment with me. But based on the conversation that we had on the phone, she gave me the impression that I was no more than just a sack of potatoes to her. I don't know how much she, or basically a person like that, can even help me, but I'm still going to attend that appointment nonetheless, because that's not a good enough reason to just stop reaching out. But all that aside, what in the end am I trying to say with this video? First of all, I am sorry, Ronnie, that the systems that we have created for people struggling with mental health issues have failed you. I also wish to give my condolences to Matt and everyone who has been affected by Ronnie's passing. And without a doubt, I wish to give my +1 in agreement with Matt that Ronnie definitely was able to achieve his goal to be an influential artist. I also seriously hope that Matt and everyone else who is sad about Ronnie's passing are taking extra care of themselves, especially because some studies have shown that contact with suicide produces an increase in suicidal behavior among peers. For example, there was a nearly 10% spike in suicides following Robin Williams' death. In short, we are all statistically more likely to kill ourselves than we were 10 years ago just because we are living in a period where suicide attempts are so common. These things are being filmed and shown on the internet and we see them, consume them. People close to us are committing suicides and famous people are committing them as well. Second, even though the things that I said might imply that I was trying to criticize Matt's video, like that is not the case, because there is nothing to criticize. The video that Matt posted is all about a person trying to honor his friend's memory and letting others know what is going on. There is no smooth and super proper way to do that. You just do the best you can, and I think that Matt did a very good job. I probably should have done this at the beginning, but the reason why I am making this video is because in these cases when a person takes their own life, we rarely get to see the perspective of the person who committed suicide. The sad truth is that we are probably never going to. We will only get to see what those who have been left behind by these tragic events think about mental health issues and the event itself. Those people who are actually suffering from mental health disorders usually stay quiet in these cases. Logically, I can speak for Ronnie and I'm not even going to try to, but this video was my attempt in giving a perspective about these issues from the point of view of a person who is also suffering from a mental health disorder.
But I hope that through his tragic loss, there could be some good that comes out of this. That this video and the conversations that ensue in some way start to break down the stigmas around talking about mental health, social anxiety, and suicide.
I think that what Matt wished for in this video, that something good might come out of this tragedy, might actually come to fruition. I really struggled with the idea of making and posting this video. Is it okay? Should I do it? What am I going to say? Where am I going to post it? Why do I even want to make this video? But Matt's video got such a reaction out of me that I just had to get all of this out somehow. People who struggle with mental health issues have to speak up about their struggles, otherwise people will continue to ignore us. The problem is when you see stuff like this,
You're doing it really well. Good job.
Very frustrated. I was studying all today and I took time out of my studies to come here.
Would you like to ask him why he's here?
I'm not sufficiently convinced that I'll receive an answer that isn't what I've presented.
Two of my friends committed suicide and I want the peace of understanding why that happened.
Wow. When did this happen?
It happened about 2 years ago. It was one after the other like that.
Did you expect to get some addressing of suicide issue at the talk here?
Yes, I did.
What I have to ask on that, and I'll ask you, is why this space to talk about that? Like feminism, for example, offers lots of spaces to talk about mental health issues, talk about depression, both in men, women, and people who don't identify within the binary.
I think everybody's voice should be heard. I wondered why the security was trying to keep me back, and I think it's for my own safety.
it's no wonder people are not speaking out.
There was a point where I realized that if I died of old age, I would win. Because so many people with bipolar illness kill themselves that simply to not kill myself would be a big goal. And I thought, that's really a low bar. And I was like, no, it's not a low bar. Because it can be that hard.
Nobody ever said that speaking out is going to be easy, but it is possible. Thus from now on I'm going to, and I haven't properly planned all of this out yet, because 2 months ago I didn't even think that I would be doing something like this. But basically I'm going to keep making content like this. For example, since everyone says that exercise helps with depression, recently I took up running as an exercise myself. And I think that I'm going to make a video or a podcast episode about what you can do to introduce exercise as a positive change in your own life if you are struggling with a mental health disorder. If that piece of content can help even one person to take better care of themselves, then I think that that video is worth making. Dr. Andrew Solomon once wrote that depressed people cannot lead a revolution because depressed people can barely manage to get out of bed and put on their shoes and socks. Now, I respect Dr. Solomon a lot, but maybe it is time to prove him wrong by starting and finishing one ourselves rather than waiting for someone else to do it for us.